Alrighty, Old Roller Nation, welcome to the show. Judo black belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, fourth degree black belt in Shingi Thai Jiu-Jitsu, Sean Daugherty. Sean, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
So excited to have you. Been a huge fan of yours for a long time, and I was telling you before the show, I first learned about you from the book in the Lion's Den, I think the name of the title is, and was talking about training with Ken Shamrock and stuff like that in the early days of the UFC and Pancrase and whatnot. So it's been a long time. You've been around the block a time or two, sir.
Yeah, that was 1994 when I was at the Lion's Den. Yeah.
So
long time.
So for those who are not familiar with you, been hiding under a rock somewhere, give us just a little bit of your background. How did you come to martial arts and grappling in general, and then find your way? How long was it that you were the youngest fighter in the history of the UFC?
Up until I want to say the guy's last name is Lozano. I have a post on my Instagram where I have the breakdown where it says youngest, oldest, or the youngest competitors in there. And Dan Lozano, I think that's his name, Dan Lozano. He's got me by like 10 months or something like that. But, I believe in truth, as far as like, being, if you're going to be something, be honest about it, I could have said, oh yeah, I am. And, but what kind of fucking, I mean, one, it's just a fucking like something it's like in a, little known facts about the UFC, or it's like something you read off of a coffee table. You know what I mean? It's just a trivia. It's like something you take a poop and read while you're shitting. It's not a big deal anyway. So, might as well make it accurate.
Well, it's whether you hold the record and the title or not, it's still pretty darn cool that you held it for a good long time. So how did you get introduced to martial arts? How did you start training, and then how did you go from there to that experience?
Well, it was as a kid, just like most, I was born in 75, so between 75 and 80, I got introduced to, like Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, which was my dad and stuff. He wasn't a martial artist or nothing. He just loved them. You know what I mean? So, and
how can you blame him?
Right? Something connected. I just knew at a young age that was something I was going to do. There's a lot of things that just throughout my life, like I just knew at a young age that I was going to do, and I ended up doing those things. But martial art being the primary one. And so, my mom put me in Kung Fu when I was probably like maybe first grade, and I was so ADHD. Oh my gosh, dude. There was no sparring, there was no anything. They were standing in horse stance for ungodly amounts of time and practicing the snake hand and the cobra fist, whatever. I was like, oh God, all right, I can't do this. And then I found breakdancing. And then, breakdancing and gymnastics, just I was always doing stuff with my body. And then came the 80s, around 85, 86, I got into skateboarding. And then, I was always a weak kid. My brother, this is the sixth grade, my brother was a Golden Gloves champion. So I have 3 older siblings that are 14, 13, 12 years older than me. So one of them was a boxer. So in my 6th grade year, he started, teaching me how to box. And then, nothing, I was too young for Golden Gloves, and then he ended up moving to Florida. So, I was stuck. And then I got the skateboarding and I just stayed active with that. And then, I was always being bullied. I was a skater, I was little all the time. Everybody had like these egos that I really wasn't in tune with, like the dumb jock ego, you know what I mean? Just like,
Sure.
I believe in alpha male. I believe in masculinity, and I believe there's a subcategory of those things where things can become toxic, but I don't think it's masculinity of itself. Those are like narcissism, mental disorders that would cause people to use their strength in bad ways. So I wouldn't even like to tie the word into the word masculinity. That's a whole other thing. I mean, if anybody's interested in my views on that, I mean, most people are. It's kind of a dividing factor, but I'm kind of a blend of them both. You know what I mean?
I think, you know, kind of what you're getting at is like having the desire to force yourself, you know, your will onto somebody else is problematic. Like you have some problems if you have that need. And so to be masculine, to be strong, you could say that potentially is a heroic trait, but to use it, you know, for tyranny, even if it's just, you know, tyranny between two people, that springs from a poison well.
Right. Exactly. And that's what we have to, you know, we don't want to lump everything in, you know, with you know, like there's just so much overgeneralization and canned axioms in our world today that we've reduced everything down to like this symbol or this chunk, and nobody really breaks it apart, and it's like blanket statements for everything. But I recognized that in my youth that, you know, I wasn't into the group think and the, you know, going with the pack. I played football for a little bit and things like that, and you know, I saw politics really fast. And so my high school year, after being sick of constantly being picked on, I just had low self-esteem. I saw a place that had kickboxing on the thing. It was my ninth grade year. It was right after wrestling season. I went halfway through that, and I just got tired of being one of the guys that lost points for everybody else, because I was my first year. I was the weakest, scrawniest, you know, unhealthy, malnourished kid. You know, it just didn't quite fit. But I picked up on some things, and it was that later on resurfaced. But I went from that to walking down the street and seeing a sign for kickboxing, and I was like, kickboxing, boxing plus kicks. You know, I never heard it before. You know, I might as well check it out. And this is 1990, mind you. This is like when Say Anything came out. You know, kickboxing, the sport of the 90s kind of thing. This was February of 1990, I believe. Yes, February 1990. So I started kickboxing. Every day after school, I'd go straight there, stay at the gym from 3 o'clock till about 10 o'clock at night every night. And it was a martial arts center, so there was different martial arts there that I was privy to learn from, like Aikido, Taekwondo, the kickboxing. There's even ninjutsu there.
Yes.
So, you know, but you know, it was my martial arts instructor, you know, told me to have an open mind, be like Bruce Lee, you know, anything that works, use it. If it doesn't work, throw it away. You know, he didn't make me learn all the katas. He just wanted me to have a, you know, a sufficient understanding of katas and things like that. But he was more focused in full contact for me. And I was 14, 15 years old fighting 30-year-old men and winning in full contact American kickboxing. You know, everything above the waist, of course, but everything was full go.
Yeah.
Multiple head concussions to prove it. You know, it was stupid. It was very careless how people handled me. They, you know, like I was just a kid, literally fighting men, you know, and it was nuts. So that was the beginning. That was 14, turning 15 that year.
Well, I could see based on that experience why, you know, you had, because just thinking about it, you were, let's see, that was in 1990. So 94, you were 18. I'm 4 years younger than you. And I think of myself at 18, and there is no fucking way that I would have even considered, you know, trying something like going to compete in the UFC.
Well,
but
I was an ADHD kamikaze, man.
That'd be a good name for a metal band, actually.
Right?
That's pretty funny that just the audacity. I like that, you know, because I'm somebody who, you know, I look at things from a very, I would say like risk averse or calculated mentality. Like in order to take a risk, it's going to be very calculated. And, you know, stepping in there from the kickboxing gym at 14 and, you know, competing with adults, even that is something that I can't imagine myself doing. just because I don't think I have the balls for that, you know? So like, I respect nuts, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I had, now I have 4 kids. If I had 4 kids, you know what I mean? If I had any kind of
sure.
responsibility, I had no responsibility for anybody but myself. And I really didn't like myself. I had a low self-esteem. I was suicidal ideations a lot. Dealt with that my whole life. I don't ever remember being conscious without having like suicidal ideations, to be honest. Just, I was like born with low self-esteem or something. I don't
Hmm.
know, psychologically, never gone that deep as to where it starts, but hey, it's there, but, you know, I use principles of judo and aikido, and I just don't harm myself. I use safe physical management when I deal with myself psychologically. I I have like a constant, war in there, not a war. I don't even want to say a war. Fuck that. I have a wrestling match, at all times in my mind of not, having to, I literally have to coach myself. Like I coach other people, like, you're not a piece of shit. You're awesome. Get your head out of your ass, you're a good person. Quit it. It's like I'm talking, just like I would talk somebody else off the ledge. I'm learning how to talk myself off the ledge too. And to me, I guess that might be maybe in that range of self-love, discovering self-love, that I would actually talk myself off the ledge now. So I don't know,
Yeah.
but I've been mind healthy for quite a few years now. But I mean, that's my mentality throughout my life was, I'm not going to live to see 18 was my
Oh,
motto as
okay.
a kid. And then
So
18
that's,
came around. I'm not going to see 25. 25 makes it 30. Now I'm like, well, you know what? I have to invest. It's time to invest.
uh,
This isn't a paper plate. This is China. I gotta fucking clean this thing and keep it
I,
spotless and take
I agree
care
with
of it.
you. I agree with
Because
you.
now I got 5 other lives, to manage. And dude, fuck, man, I am not meant to be a manager. Even when I was in the military as a staff sergeant, I was Sergeant Doc. You know what I mean, or just Doc. I was that mediator. That was always my role. I was never like I can't be like a rule enforcer. I worked in the prison system for a little bit and I couldn't do it, man. It's just like I can't be in charge of other people, not my kids, not other people's kids, not other people. Now on the mats and teaching, that's another thing. But I'm giving you information and I'm making sure you're doing it safe as possible. I'll give you some life lessons, but fuck.
I feel the same way. I remember when I had my first child, when we found out about the pregnancy. I was 25, so not super young, but certainly not all that mature. And I will be the first to admit to being a very immature person. Like it takes a lot to get me to grow up. I don't want to. I kind of resist it.
I get it. I was 25 too when my first was born.
So I called my dad and I said, Dad, I got some news for you. You're going to be a grandfather, which at that time he was already a grandfather. My sister had I think she got pregnant like 2 months ahead of us. So he knew, he was already adjusted to that. But I was like, man, I got some questions for you. I was like, Dad, I'm not ready for this. And Dad goes, well, shit, no, you're not ready. You've never done it. Before you learned how to walk, you weren't ready to walk. And before you learned how to, run, you weren't ready to run. Like you learn it while you do it. So at first, pretty much just feed it and clean up its poop and everything will work out. And then they get increasingly more complex every day, but you're just adjusting to it as you go. So I'm not a very good manager either. I'm still in the like just scrambling to figure it out day by day.
And that's the secret too, is that there's no real handbook to it, man. It's like, no, you're never ready for it, and like some dude said to me one time, babies bring their own bread. Means they bring their own solutions. Like you just figured out, you're going through it with them, and each kid's different. So you got to raise them all different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because my son, he's so much like me that it's almost like I'm worried for him, because I know exactly what his life's going to be like, where he's going to have troubles. I look at him, I'm like, oh man, you're going to get stuck in a couple of spots and I am not going to be able to help you.
Yeah. It's, I've already ran into that quite a few times. Yeah. If I already know what's going to happen before it happens, and Goes out, comes back. Did it happen? Yep. All right. How are we gonna
Did
fix
you learn
this?
from it?
It's like, oh man, it's
I
insane.
totally get it.
I don't regret it though.
Oh, not for a It's been, I can say this.
Are you
it's
there?
The hardest.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear. Do you hear me?
You're cutting out on me a little bit. Let me see what's going on with my Wi-Fi's.
Sometimes if we have that problem, it'll come back. If you just give it a minute. Okay, starting to lose you. We'll get Sean back in a second. He'll be coming back. If we have to pause it, we'll open it back up. Sometimes the Wi-Fi has that. I was enjoying hearing the birds out there. Okay, looks like we got you back.
All right, my Wi-Fi went out. I had to cut to my data. Hopefully this works better until they reset it.
Okay. Well,
sorry about that.
Don't sweat it, man. Let's transition just a little bit and talk about your time both in the Lions Den and in the early UFC. What that was like, going from the kickboxing gym and then transitioning to different places.
All right, so the kickboxing thing happens. I get a really good record. Technically, it was only like 8-0, but this is what, like, by 1993. By the time I graduated, I'm 8-0. 1990 or 7-0. 94, I take on another fight because right after the first one. What was it? November 11th, 1994 for UFC 1, right?
I believe it. Yeah, I can't remember the date exactly, but it was definitely 94.
We're watching it, and I'm watching with a couple of my buddies, and I say, I'm going to be in the next one. Jason DeLucia and Ken Shamrock both really stood out to me throughout that fight. There was just like this connection, like, what's up? And a week later, I went to Buffalo, New York to help with a karate tournament, a point karate tournament, as a judge. And the people who were hosting it were friends with Kevin Rozier, and he was out in the foyer of the hotel. Kevin Rozier from UFC 1, the real big guy who, he said his strategy was let him hit him, let him get tired. So he's there, and I know he was a pro kickboxer, and I went up to him and I'm like, hey, I'm from Ohio. I'm willing to relocate, but I want to become a pro kickboxer. I've gone really as far as I can with where I'm at. I would like to make the transition. I was wondering if you would coach me. And he said, yeah, sure. And, this was November. So by January 1st, 1994, so 93 was UFC 1, 94 comes around, January 1st, I moved to Buffalo, New York to go live with Kevin Rozier. And turns out he had mental health issues, some drug addiction problems, lots of heavy shit. I was 18, fresh out of high school. Martial arts, like Taekwondo, aim to achieve modesty, self-control, discipline, and indomitable spirits, not blowing rails off of hookers' asses, Oh man, I got stories, but they can't be said here.
I will say this: it doesn't surprise me because everybody I know from Buffalo knows how to party. It seems like the weather's so bad there that
their bars stayed open until 4 a.m. Man,
you better be willing to party in Buffalo, like, because if you ain't having fun, it's your fault.
Dude, I have friends in Buffalo. I love all of them, dude. They're awesome. They're like, I see memes about like Buffalo people like doing memes about Buffalo, like people from Buffalo. I'm like, what the fuck,
dude?
But when people can do that, that's a tight knit community, man. It's like
it is. I've spent a lot of time in Buffalo, and I can say that they're just awesome folk. Because, like I said, I think the weather is such that if you can't figure out how to have fun, then you can't stick around in Buffalo because you got to get the fuck out.
Right? Yeah, man. No, I've never had a bad experience. I've never had a bad experience in Buffalo. I would, like, if I had a tour, like with a show of some sort, I would have a good time in Buffalo. you know.
Second that one, I co-signed.
But so I'm there, and I end up getting homeless while I'm there, and it's 40 below kind of weather. It was like record snow. I mean, blizzard after blizzard after blizzard. I'm living in and out of a makeshift. It's an office space that he called a dojo. I mean, it was crazy, dude. I was living in the cold constantly. And then Charlie Anzalone, his manager, who's been with UFC since its beginning and is still affiliated with the UFC. He wears the red coat, you know, when he walks out with the fighters and stuff like that. He's one of those guys. But he should be in the MMA Hall of Fame for sure, and the UFC Hall of Fame. I mean, that guy is a legend. But he was friends with Rick James. So, you know, I mean, he had all these great stories. So, you know, those stories that Dave Chappelle, you know, the skits he did about Rick James, he told me those kind of stories, like fucking like hanging out with him, like that kind of shit. I was like, oh my God, Charlie was not kidding. But Charlie, he just messaged me today on Facebook. He's like, hey, I just went through a bunch of UFC pics. You know, I'm keeping some, but the ones, you know, I want you to be able to have them. Send me your address. So that was pretty cool. Thank you, Charlie, if you end up seeing this. But anyways, he's like, hey, if I would have known you were coming out here, you know, I would have told you no. But since you're here, you want to fight in the next UFC. Now, mind you, on the night of the UFC, I just told all my friends, I made a fucking declaration, and I said, I'm going to be in the next one. It's not like I'm going to be in one of these. I said, I'm going to be in the next one. So no matter whether I was scared or not, whether I was in over my head or not, whether I was qualified or not, whether I was worthy to be there or not, I was going to be there. So, you know, I said yes. So he went out to Torrance, met with Art Davie. I went back to Ohio and started working out and training for this. Didn't know how to do it. You know, I just did train just like I did in kickboxing. I didn't do any kind of educating myself in grappling or anything like that. I knew nothing of it. I was just a pure kickboxer. Yeah. The UFC 2 happens. Big John McCarthy. Now here's another trivia. Me and Scott Morris, the Ninja, are Big John McCarthy's. That first fight, we're the very first Let's Get It On. We're Big John McCarthy's first match he ever refereed. So well, that's another trivia. That's another trivia that makes me kind of cool. So,
so no given the amount of ink that you got, do you have "Let's Get It On" tattooed somewhere?
Oh fuck no. Dude, that sounds like gay porn. I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Now that I think about it, maybe it does.
Yeah, I mean, I'm heterosexual. You know, I mean, gay people like gay porn. I like straight stuff. You know, I don't know. But anyways, I digress. I'm being comical here. I mean, please, nobody take this serious. Just fucking laugh, guys. There's enough fucked up shit going on around us right now. We have to blow off some steam and just laugh a little, okay? You know, if anybody's watching this is stressed out, have a sip. So, listen to Grandpa Sean tell a story or two.
Good old Grandpa Sean.
Yeah, Papa Doc, Pop Doc here. So he goes out and he says, yeah, you know, we're in. So 2 weeks before the UFC 2 happens, Art Davie gives me a call. He and I are friends to this day too. Awesome guy. He's like, Sean Daugherty, Art Davie here. How are you doing? I'm like, doing great, Art. How about you, man? And he's like, you know, Ken just broke his hand because Ken was going to be in this fucking thing, dude. I was going to have to fight Ken. You know, I mean, there was the opportunity. I mean, there was that possibility, but Ken broke his hand. Vernon White threw a kick, and Ken went to block it, and it got a spiral fracture in his pinky. This way.
Yeah.
So I pulled him out, and he asked if because I was going to be an alternate, and so he says, instead of being an alternate, you want to be in the main event. Again, you know, I said I was going to do this, so let's do it. This is a chance to do this. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that this is going to be some breakthrough shit. I mean, nobody ever thought UFC was going to become what it was. You know, the rumor was it was going to stop at 13 and shit like that. I just thought this might be my springboard into Hollywood for doing stunt work. that's what my dream was, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like Steve Kofer is doing exactly what I always wanted to do, you know, and that he's an awesome guy. I'm so happy for him, but that's the kind of life that I wanted, you know, but, or like Gene LaBelle, you know, that kind of stuff, the way things were. But, you know, I thought the UFC was going to be kind of like a springboard. I didn't think it was going to ever be a career or like a lifestyle or what we have today. So I said, yeah, I'll do it. And here comes the fight. Not prepared. Even a ninja could beat me because, you know, all I had was strikes. He had a head and arm sacrifice roll backwards, and I pulled his legs over on top of me and choked me. But Ken was there. He watched my fight. He watched me train before that. You know, he took me and Jason DeLucia out to dinner, invited us to live with him out at the Lion's Den and fight in Pancrase. And he said we had to, you know, we wouldn't have to do the initiation, which at the time was 20 minutes in the ring with him nonstop, full go Pancrase rolls. So it was, I mean, no matter what, if you tapped, he lets go and goes right back on. If you get choked unconscious, you get revived and you have to continue. You just can't quit. That's it. So, you know, Jason and I I took my winnings. I bought like a half ounce of weed, a few hits of mescaline. And from that weed and mescaline, I had like a trip, and I was like, you know, I need to go out to California. I need to do this because I was making a decision, you know. I was just partying at the time, but little did I know that I was actually tapping into something for myself, like my mind, in the process of, yeah, this was a clear decision. I need to go in that route. And I was like, okay, it was just this clarity of thought. I was in a pool hall when it happened, and I was like, all right. So I took the rest of my money. I bought a plane ticket to Lodi, California, or Sacramento, flew into Sacramento and went off to Lodi, California, lived with Ken Shamrock in Lockford. And then day later, me and Bob Shamrock go pick up Jason DeLucia. And then we hear tell about this guy named Frank Juarez, who's going to be about to be out of Folsom, who was one of the young men that was raised under Bob Shamrock's care, with Ken as one of the, you know, mentors kind of thing, who we were about to be roommates with too. And we're like, we're getting this dude from prison to hang out with us, you know, fresh. I was like, what the fuck? Right, so, you know, but so that was that. And then you already had Scott Bessick there. He's an OG. He's the OG of the OGs. Holler out, like, track him down sometime. He's a good dude. Vernon White was already there. Well, Scott and Vernon, those were the main ones. Then you had this kid named Danny Zuniga, you know. So then you had, you know, just he had a couple people who just kind of came and went. But that was the Lions Den that I was a part of. Then after I left, Jerry Bolander came in, you know, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But when I was there, I had a neck injury. I was there for a few months, and then I had a neck injury, and I had to come back home to Ohio. So
what was the injury?
But now I have a titanium plate in there, you know. But this is 18. I bridged Scott Bessick. We were playing King of the fucking Ring, you know, thing where you stay. I was the worst wrestler. I was the lightest guy, so I was always on my back. So the drill was, you know, three minutes, or no, not 3 minutes, like 1 or 2 minutes, a fresh guy on top of you until you can escape. And I could never escape. But I got this one moment where I had Scott tipped in a bridge, but I didn't have my shoulders, you know, clenched in, my neck folded under me with his weight on me, and that was it. I've had, you know, issues, but I've healed it up, and then just one thing after another, military life, everything, you know. Now I'm fused from C6 to T1 in there, and 4 and 5 I'm fused in my lower back too. So, but you probably want to know about the Lions Den workouts, right?
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because one of the components of the Old Rollers podcast is, you know, a lot of the strength and conditioning, trying to keep yourself, you know, in a place. As we experience sort of a gradual decline in, you know, our we'll say youth attributes, Strength
Yeah.
is one that we can maintain. So always curious about any, strength and conditioning kind of, details and interesting stuff. And I've read about some of the Lions Den training, especially the conditioning, and it was pretty nuts. So I wanted to hear about a little bit of it from you, what your experience was like.
Well, it was, let's see, the regiment was, we woke up in the morning, we went straight to, it was like 6 or 7 a.m. We packed up all our shit and then went to the gym. It was Twin Harbors at the time, Twin Harbor, something like that, or Twin Harbors. And we would lift for about an hour and a half, eat our food, have like a 90-minute break, and then start the first grappling workout of the day. Or was it, we did our 500 squats, 500 squats, 200 push-ups, 500 crunches, and then 2-mile run. Those were like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or was that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday? I forget. But we had workouts and cows, all the time. I mean, and we had a low-fat diet. I mean, we were eating like bodybuilder style diets, just plain rice, plain noodles, and chicken breast, and sometimes broccoli or something like that in there. It was bad. I mean, it was like our joints were just sapped. But it was complete overtraining. I don't have glory days about it. I mean, it was just like, as I look back and I'm educated now and, been through the ringer, it was definitely, overtraining. Anybody who went through that. But you have that all the time, special forces selections like that, I went through pararescue selection 3 times, and, I compared them together, I mean, it was like Lions Den actually prepared me for it. It wasn't I was 27 when I went through the combat control selection course. And, I had already gone through the Lions Den. I was just like, wow, Lions Den was actually kind of harder. Because I was there. I mean, I was afraid for my life. I was scared to death of Ken, Frank, and Jason. I was a little worm on a big fucking hook. I was around killers. You know what I mean? I was around people who could destroy me, and that sucked. That kind of fucked up my psyche. That kind of like made me, less self-confident in a lot of ways. It was just that locker room bullying type. It's bullying type shit. You know what I mean? It's like, fuck.
Yeah, they don't talk about that in the book, do they?
No, there's lots of crazy. Now, I've got nothing bad to say about Ken. He was always good to me and things like that. I mean, fuck, he invited me to come out there. I mean, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. You know what I mean? Everything. Sure. I mean, all things led up to the other. I could say that about Kevin Ogier. I could say that about my martial arts instructor who fucking molested me. You know what I mean? I mean, there's another story, but guys, this is life. This is, oh, wow, that guy had something like that happen to you. Yeah, it doesn't just happen to women. It happens to young boys too. It's fucked up. It's but you see me functioning, you see me, this is everyday life. So it's, there's so many pieces to this. Was it my dad showing me the video, of Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris when I was a kid? You know what I mean? What was it? It was all those things. And I take it as all one long chunk, one long piece. It's all one. So, I take every opportunity when I can get it. And, but Ken's, that moment there at the Lions Den was my defining moment in dialing in what my ethos was going to be as far as my personal training and how I was going to be.
So how do you mean by that? Because that's a fascinating big point.
It's the mentality. It's the same. It's the mentality that that I look for in other people. It's this: no matter what, I'm not going to quit. No matter what, I am going to go for it. And at all costs, at all measures, whatever it is, you let nothing get in your way. And I saw that when I got to by the time I got to John Saylor, so I moved back to Ohio, right? And I had this mindset of work hard. You know, I have the mentality to do 500 squats without stopping. People don't understand what that means. That's hard to do. And then I did 1,000 squats without stopping. You know what I mean? It's, you know, John Saylor did 4,500 squats without stopping. You know, I mean, it's, you know, it's crazy what the mind can do. But it was you know, my mind was indestructible at this point. And I was going to do whatever. I was going to heal from anything. I was going to recover from anything. I was going to achieve anything. So I found that in John Saylor. You know, the first thing he says to me, yeah, 500 squats, you know, the whole catch wrestling stuff and this. I'm like, what the fuck? I just found another catch wrestler. You know, I just found, like, I don't have to go back out to California to Ken. I have it right here. And then he's also judo and, you know, all these other things, and this amazing instructor. And he's compassionate, and he's there to teach me and bring me through instead of just choke me unconscious and revive me. You know, he teaches me how to get out of chokes now. You know, I mean, it's like, that John Saylor was now, Ken Shamrock gave me my base. John Saylor was all the self-actualization. You know what I mean? Maslow's hierarchy of need. So Shamrock gave me the bedrock, 2 rocks there. So it's and then, you know, just the never quit mentality. And then I met John, who also has the never quit mentality, but he's also had this other dimension of what was next.
It sounds like,
you know, he was ahead of the power curve.
One of the things that Joel Bain said when we talked to him was that catch wrestling has a bit of a bad reputation, you know, for being a little bit hard edged. He's like, but if you come to one of my classes, I'm here to build you up. I'm not here to beat you up. I want to challenge you and I want to push you, but I'm not just beating you down. You know, like it's going to be trying to create a monster out of you as opposed to make you experience a monster. And that sounds like what you experienced with John Saylor. Looks like we might have a bit of a connection issue.
Still
again.
There?
Yeah. So
okay.
I got you.
So the last thing I heard was, you know, your you know, the breaking down and building up process.
Yeah. So what Coach Bain was saying was that if you come to one of his classes, he's there to build you up. He's not there to beat you up. And he wants to turn you into a monster. But, you know, in order to do that, you know, you gotta work from the beginning. So it's not just like clubbing you. It's, you know, trying to turn you into something. And it sounds like that's what you found with John Saylor.
Yeah, I mean, he was still sick and sadistic, you know, in a lot of ways. Like, it was, I mean, there was no room for error. I mean, he used to be the head coach with the Olympic Training Center, you know, for judo in Colorado Springs, you know. So, I mean, he was every bit as, his meanness was different. Like, Ken's meanness was in his physical, you know, strength and this and that. John has a severed brachial nerve, or, you know, his nerve severed at the brachial complex, and he's, you know, had a, you know, severed artery and shit like that from a judo accident. And he's basically this, when I met him, he was what, like 42, one arm, you know, all he's got is his right arm and an arm that he can use his trap to bring it up, and he can use his hand for grips. And he wipes me on the floor. I'm 205 pounds coming from the lines then, and he just threw me around, dude. Like, I couldn't get out from underneath him. There was nothing I could do. I mean, he fisherman cranked the shit out of me, you know, choked me every which way. I mean, gouged my eyes with his chin bone. I mean, insane stuff, dude. Like, all my rips and stuff, I didn't, you know, I mean, I got a lot from Ken with a lot of elbows and stuff like that, but John taught me how to use really unorthodox shit to create pain on people. And to roll with John was just complete torture. There was just no room to breathe whatsoever.
Well, that's fascinating too, because, you know, you were saying that, you know, he had a big catch wrestling influence, and obviously the big judo influence. A lot of people would kind of think that those two don't mix and match well, but from talking to Joel, he was saying that his catch wrestling made his judo better, and
Mine too.
That there was the principles within catch wrestling basically expressed themselves and made everything more efficient. And that's one of the things about that this podcast is an exploration of, is what is efficient, because as we age, there is a certain amount of loss of athleticism. But if we can continually improve our efficiency, then we can make up for that loss and maybe even be better as we age, just because we're more in tune with I don't want to say the art, but the efficiency of the art, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like every culture has their own expression of the art, right? So you have Japan, right? Japan is a very ritualistic, meditative, cultural kind of like, like have you ever participated in a tea ceremony?
I've not, but I've seen it. So I know
Right.
what
But
you're...
everything means something. Everything means something. And within the Japanese mindset, it's very, they complicate things. They have like 15 different words for a shoulder throw, or a forward throw. They're just where your foot goes in a different spot. Everything is meticulous, but it's a good thing. It's very archival. It's meticulous. It's all these things. So then you have the birth of Sambo, where basically, you have Russia sends their people over to go learn judo, and they drink a lot of vodka and they come back. You know what I mean? It's like, like Russia is very simplified, a very abrupt, very straight to the point. No, cutting corners or like, beating around the bush. It's just straight. If you suck, you suck. There's no gentle way of getting around it. So thus you have Sambo. Sambo is a very more straight to the point form of judo, if you ask me. You know what I mean? And it also allows you they broke a lot of rules, like rules that didn't really exist, but the rules that were on the mind that were placed upon the mind of Japanese because of tradition and culture. The Russians didn't have that blockage. They had this whole new, like fresh eyes in business. When you have somebody come in who isn't involved with this project for the past 3 years, comes in with fresh eyes and can actually see what the problem is. It was glaring you right in the face. Well, the Russians had that, with the judo of they're looking at it with fresh eyes and they're saying, let's try this. Why not? It's like, and that's where you see all the whirly twirly kind of things going on in Sambo versus the linear kind of movements that you see in judo. Makes sense?
That makes a lot of sense. That's a great breakdown. I had another thing that I had read about the birth of Sambo. Given that Japanese culture, just like you said, it's archival. Stephen Kepfer was saying that in Sambo, if you brought a move, your coach may be saying like, okay, today we're working on Uchimata. But the mentality would not be, this is the way to do Uchimata. It would be, this is an Uchimata. Now let's find out how you need to do it for your body, given, a blank set of scenarios.
Right. And that's where the mentality of Sambo fit my personality best. John always got upset with me because I didn't do things exactly how it was shown. I always did something that made it work for me. Because like for me, I was worried about my MMA career and my next fight, and all I wanted to do is what worked for that. So I would make things work for MMA. So things would switch to no gi or whatever. I kind of had to take some reins of personal control of myself, my body kind of thing of
sure
how and what I'm going to learn. And because I'm an autodidact, because I've taught myself in many ways about many things in life, I do that with martial arts. So like if I have a teacher, the teacher presents to me the information, but it goes through my brain in a bunch of complex ways, and then I regurgitate it, through form, and then it works for the way I work. And then and because that's the way I learn, because my body, anatomically has changed from all the surgeries that I've had 18 now. Every single surgery I've had to reinvent my game plan and my technique, the way I do my techniques. It looks very different from the way it did 20 years ago, because I'm anatomically different now.
But that willingness to experiment, keeps you carrying through, the different changes.
Right. My whole goal is longevity at this point.
Yeah, and that's like I said, that's a huge element of the Old Rollers podcast. Like I want to roll into my 65th birthday a bad some bitch, you know. But in order to do that, I've got to think hard about the way I train now. And part of, you know, like I know this is a terrible time in our country, and I mean, it's a bad time for me. I'm probably going to lose my job. Like, you know, I'm good till October, but after that, who knows? But this is a time period where I can't train. So what I want to do is try and find how can I set myself up for the maximum amount of, you know, dangerosity to my partners and stuff, but also longevity with that. And so just trying to adapt, you know, just like, you know, making changes. If COVID is going to keep me off the mat, then I need to find a way to be as efficient as I can. And then I think that this information is worth sharing. It's better, you know, it's useful to people more than just me. I think there's a lot of people who have the same feeling, like they don't want to just get a black belt and quit. You know, we want to be doing this for a long time.
Right.
And we don't want to be just chuds doing it for a long time. We want to be good at it, you know?
Yeah. Well, one thing I've noticed is like, you know, the people to reach are the youth, to get them to change their ways, you know, of not going hardcore and overtraining and shit like that because their testosterone levels are so high, and bravado, which damages the joints. We pay for it later. But, you know, I have that speech for those guys, right? And I have the speech for guys like us who are trying to pick up their remnants or whatever. But, you know, when I met John Saylor, the nice thing about that, Louie Simmons of Westside Barbell came with that introduction. And I got introduced to the conjugate method of training, which is constantly switching out exercises in like a 3-week cycle where you don't allow your body to achieve an anatomical adaptation. So that what that does is breaks plateaus. And then also another part of that is accessory lifts, where you know, people like us, we shouldn't be doing the deadlifts, heavy, lots and lots of reps of deadlifts. We shouldn't be doing heavy squats. We shouldn't be doing heavy bench. Us grapplers, we have no need for a fucking bench. We don't push people away from us. We pull. Everything we do is a pull. So we need to be having thick backs, you know. You know, the actual angles that we do push in that work are actually, you know, more like incline press, military, and decline press, and also dip. Those are the angles where we actually use our wrestling. That's it. And, or, you know, that's, you know, the downward is for shrimping and posting off the hips, so on and so forth. You can follow me.
Yeah, down blocking and things like that.
Right. So in powerlifting, and, you know, Louie's method is that the guys don't, their event is powerlifting. So they don't go and do deadlifts and go do benching and go do squats as the exercise. They do what's called accessory lifts, where they'll do lots of glute ham raises for, and, you know, reverse hypers and belt squats and box squats. And, you know, they're doing the squatting movement, but it's not the event. You know what I mean? You know, they're doing lots of band work, lots of chains, you know, combinated resistance training, all these different things. Now, I'm not talking about these fucking memes where you got a bunch of bands and chains. I mean, we're talking strategic stuff here. We're actually, you know, knowing where your body sticks on, let's say, the deadlift. Are you sticking low, or are you sticking at the lockout? You know, this is where we put more tension at that place. You know, there's so many things to look at. So with the idea of using accessory lifts, not the heavy lifting anymore, but constant like rehab style lifting, rehabilitation style lifting. Now, that's a fad word. What that's really saying are accessory lifts, lifts that help address the issue, that take you out of a weak spot.
Sure.
Follow me?
Yeah.
You know, so like,
yeah,
for example,
there's a real famous quote from Louie saying, if you want to squat 1,000 pounds and you have 1,200 pound legs, but a 500 pound set of abs, you're not going to get much out of leg pressing. You need to get your abs stronger. And then all of a sudden you'll have 1,000 pound squat. But until you do what you need to do, you will never have it.
I've never seen anybody's abs like Louie Simmons. I mean, he can like break your fingers in his abdomen. It's nuts. He's, but, you know, Louie is you know, his whole goal is longevity now. You know, having his lifters be able to lift longer. You know, when you get into our age group, when you go to a doctor and you get your testosterone levels checked, you know, you want to make sure you're at a healthy testosterone level, because cancer is right around the corner if our testosterone levels drop. You know, my doctor has me on 100 milligrams a week. That's nothing, you know, but I'm 178 pounds. You know, I'm not a juice head or nothing like that. I mean, I'm not telling you to go out and run juice, you know, and get Hulk retarded, you know, but what I am saying is you got to stay healthy in a lot of ways, you know, dietary functions, you know, that we're getting older. We have to take some things seriously. You know, we make jokes about the cheeseburgers and all the bacon and shit like that, but if you want longevity, man, you got to be more like the guy on the mountain, you know, a little Chinese man with the Fu Manchu rice bowl, you know, whatever. I
Fish and
mean,
rice.
what I'm saying is you got to change. You know, we have to be willing to change, and as we get older, it's hard to do. You know, we might have to take up yoga. We might have to take up Pilates. Those might be our accessory lifts. You know what I mean? Those, we have to use the conjugate method, meaning we have to change things around. Like circuit training is an example of a mini conjugate kind of thing. You're not doing the same workout. You're doing something different all the way around. You're not letting yourself rest. You're not letting yourself adapt, which is where CrossFit kind of overdoes it. With that rhabdomyolysis and shit like that. So what we need to look at is more of the low volume, high rep kind of things. You know, on the wave principle, there's high volume, low reps. We want to look more, not even just necessarily low volume, high reps. We want somewhere in between the two. You know what I mean?
So you don't want to be so intense that you're up there close to the joint limit, but you want to be challenging the muscles as well. So backing off the intensity and bringing up the volume, you're saying.
Right. And the things we need to be looking at is more about muscular imbalance, you know, where our frames are being taken out of whack. We're not in the right groove, you know, anatomically speaking, with skeletal speaking, because our muscles are weak in certain areas and they're overcompensating in others. You know, those are things we need to start looking at. We need to look at hip rotation and tilting. We need to look at, you know, scapular rotations. You know, are you being pulled forward? Is your posture coming back? Those are the kind of things we need to be looking at. You know, you got to remember, if we're grapplers too, you're getting tons of muscular training, lots of stress on the joints and things like that. So your weightlifting afterwards or before shouldn't be a fucking max effort, you know, always going crazy in the gym and trashing yourself. You can't go for that bodybuilder look. It'll be there. I mean, strength is strength. It shows itself, you know, but you're not going to look like a bodybuilder. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think, you know, what you're saying there is we had a strength and conditioning coach named Jim Laird, who actually has a lot of experience with Louie Simmons as well. And one of the things that he was saying is that you have to train to be prepared for your.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh, sorry. That's okay. We got you back.
All right, go ahead. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we interviewed the strength and conditioning coach, Jim Laird, he was talking about, he's trained NFL athletes, NHL athletes, Major League Baseball athletes, a bunch of college, you know, sports, wrestling, you know, athletes from a whole bunch of different ranges. And along with that, he trains a bunch of soccer moms and soccer dads too. And he said that the main thing, if you're training, if you have a primary sport, which let's call grappling a sport, it's an activity, it's a martial art, but there's also a sport element. Your training is not to then take away from that. So you have to leave yourself room in your recovery from the strength training to be able to also recover from the grappling. And
right.
you shouldn't be strength training so hard that that's actually taken away from your technique. So if it's hard to recover, then it's going to be hard to get into the gym, or maybe you're setting yourself up for injury, or, you know, like there's all these different things that are potentially negative from going too hard, with the weights or too hard with, running. Like you don't want to be a marathon runner and a grappler at the same time.
Right.
You
You
don't
like
want to.
the Diaz brothers, I don't know how the hell they do it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, there could be something genetic there. I mean, there's always
I mean, there's
an
always
anomaly.
those anomalies. Yeah, there's always those guys, man. I know them. I've met quite a few guys where, like, I know guys who've never been injured. You know what I mean? Their joints are
Yeah.
just almost impervious to shit, and it's just like, what the hell? You do have those people, but people look at that and they want to sell that as a template or as they want to market that. And it's like, no, that's not for everyone.
Yeah, that won't
Everyone's
work for all
different.
of us.
It's not, there's no blanket statement, man. There's no canned axiom for anyone except for the mentality to seek out and learn how to heal yourself. Every single surgery I've ever had, I did all the research. Anytime I got injured, I did the research on the injury. I did research on the recovery. I did research on how it's done to fix it, and I had my mind in it. You know what I mean? And I worked right along with the surgeon, meaning like, doc, is what's going on here? Talk to me clearly. I can have a better communication with them. With my physical therapist, I had a better communication with them. I educated myself. I educated myself each time.
That's a little
Are you
Kentucky
with
talk
me?
right there. Yeah, I got you. Do you hear me, sir? A little connectivity, but I got you back.
You turn the microwave. Are you there? How much did you get? My wife turned the microwave on, which completely
ticked off the
everything.
Wi-Fi. So I got everything you were saying. Just when you said educated, I was like, hey, that's a little Kentucky talk for us. That's where I'm from.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm in Ashland, and they call Ashland, Mansfield area is Little Kentucky. So
I like it.
So yeah, there's just, you have to do the research. You have to learn.
Well,
you have to learn how to.
What you said there made me think of something going back to your time with, when you first started with Saylor, is you were being a very active participant in your training, meaning that you were finding what you needed and what worked for you based on your specific goals. So like you couldn't focus, specifically on the gi stuff because it had to work for you in MMA.
Right.
And then when you're talking about the injuries, you're also being an active participant in the rehab and the recovery. You're doing the research, you're doing everything to try and put yourself on a path to be as successful as you can. And so I think that's the lesson that we can all take, is that, don't phone it in. Like if you want to do something, if you want to accomplish something, if you want to achieve something, don't half-ass it, whole-ass it, like be in the driver's seat, even with a coach.
Right. That's right. I mean, it's an active role, man. You're just as responsible for your training as anybody else. I mean, like there's times I didn't have training partners and all I had was myself. I was solo training a lot, or it was just me and John working out, because there was nobody else there at the time. So you're gonna do it regardless if you're gonna have a cheerleading squad or have someone poking the ass to do it. I mean, that's not a true champion to me. That's just a fucking little narcissistic diva. If you have to fucking constantly, that's about Joel. Joel was that guy that he coached himself. He made himself do stuff, and I saw that immediately. And I was somebody that was worth pouring everything I knew into.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I recognize real. And
well, to give an example, just from my limited experience with him, he and I recorded a podcast together, and the podcast service that we recorded it on fucked it up. It was just total garbage. Like I tried to clean it up as best I could, but it just came out. It like threw the timing off. It sounded like I was talking over him. It sounded like he was talking over me. So he sends me an email at like 4 a.m. He's like, dude, let's just do this over. Like this is, we can do better than this. He wasn't mad at me. He had every right to be mad at me, right? Like I just totally wasted his time. I couldn't help what the podcast service did, but he just, and it was just like, let's do this. When can we get together? And we put together, another one, and it was just as phenomenal as the first one. He's definitely not
I think he told me. Yeah, he told me about that. Yeah,
that was a real class thing to do. You know what I mean? Like I respected him crazy high already because of the level of technique that I've taken from his videos. Like I model a lot of what I do after him, even though I'm much smaller, obviously.
No, but what everything he does, I mean, it works. It works for a big guy to little guy, a little guy to big guy. It's good.
But I think the root measure of that is that idea of just no half measures. Like, never phone it in. If you're gonna commit to something, then put yourself in the driver's seat and commit to it.
Right. You know, and that's our lives, right? Isn't that how we should be? You know,
Hopefully,
it's like, always, I don't know. There's so much to it, but I mean, like in the martial arts world, we have so many people who think we owe them everything. You know, in the martial arts world, it's like, they win a fight or something like that, and all of a sudden, it's that mentality that's given to like football players. In a heavy football town, it breeds the exceptionalism. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, I can't do no wrong kind of thing. And people get that, and then they start thinking that their very name brings clout to your school now. It's like, wait a minute, didn't you just learn from us? Didn't we teach you the things that you needed to get here? Isn't this a joint effort, bub? Isn't this a two-way street here? Hold your horses, and I don't allow those kind of people to be around me. I've been very fortunate to I just really have one of them awesome stories where, I never became a champion. I did nothing significant, but I have been the student of many great teachers, people who have a depth of, knowledge that unlocks some stuff in me, to where, I now have everything inside me to create anything else that I want now. And then I never stop learning, not just because I'm teaching myself, but because, I'll somewhere along the way, along the way on YouTube or whatever, a little video clip somebody sends me or whatever, it's like, holy shit, that was cool. Wow. But then that unlocks something else in my head, and it's like this, even though it's not that technique, that just unlocked something else that I was working on technique wise in my head, that now I can I just solved another problem with something that had nothing to do with it. You know what I mean?
I do. To give an example. So this kind of goes back to how I learned about you. I was in a Facebook group called the Leg Lock Appreciation Society because I wanted to learn about leg locks. And you had someone, it was either you or Steve Colescott put a seminar about the Apache leg pin system.
Steve Scott. Was it Steve Scott?
Yeah,
when I was out in
sorry.
Kansas City? Yeah, I was out in, there you go.
So I watched this, and it just completely changed the way I thought about submissions. And so, like, I watched a leg lock video, and all of a sudden my arm bars and Kimuras were better. Now, why, how could that be? It was because you talked so much about the idea of immobilizing the joint and then taking the slack away so that the tendons and ligaments are completely loaded up. And then you go for the finish. Like, you haven't even started to finish until all those things have happened. And so just like what you were saying, like, you see one thing and it fixes a whole bunch of other things. That's kind of one of the things that was a big influence on the way I thought and tried to feel submissions, is like, I need to just take their joint, the limb away from them, and then try to finish it. I don't need to try and do it while it's all closed together and, it's within their control.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm glad that clicked with you. See, that's what I'm talking about, man. It's just like, I love hearing that kind of stuff where something clicks in somebody's head and you see all this stuff unravel, and they see the endless possibilities of that thing. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a religious experience in a way, just to see somebody else, catch it and see that light bulb go off, and it's just really cool. Well, that's one of the things that I keep doing it for. So thank you.
We're talking, absolutely, man. Thank you. I'm a hell of a lot meaner because of that video. I've gone back to that. I go back to it at least every 2 or 3 months, and I still learn stuff. I still I still make more sense of it, if that makes sense. Like it was just
Yeah.
one little video, but it's
Well,
it's
and
been,
the secret is, you know, that scythe armbar. It is the Apache leg pin, but it's just I
yep.
just call it a scythe. It's the same exact. You're just pinning the shoulder down
Mm-hmm.
so that it takes, you know, it changes the angle of the arm, you know, where you can actually you get to tap a lot faster. And that's all that was just to combine. I was like, because I remember the day it clicked with me, because I was doing both things separate, right? And I never made the connection. And you see, what's cool is you made the connection, you know, like you made this
By accident.
this thing, but dude, I was doing it. I was the one who did both of these things separate, and I never made the connection until one day I was like, well, fuck. Do I call it the scythe leg pin, or do I call it the Apache, you know, the Apache armbar and the Apache leg? I don't know. What do I do here? You know, I got
Anything
lost.
named after the Apaches, I'm down with.
Oh, no crap, right? Yeah. They were, that's a badass culture right there.
Yeah, and so to talk about that, like when I say that I was a fan of you, I didn't even know about you in the UFC at that time. I just saw that video and I was like, this has an effect. You know what I mean? Like I carried that through, and I'm a very young grappler. I've only been doing it for 5 years, so I'm a purple belt in jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
But I learned jiu-jitsu almost backwards because of that. So like, you know, the typical route is, you know, you do like triangles and arm bars and all that other stuff. And I always had trouble with that. And then from that, practicing the Apache leg pin, it started to make that stuff make sense. So I learned arm blocks from leg locks, if you could.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, that's the thing. And that's what I love to hear. That's the kind of people I want to be around. You know, those are the ones I want to have. You know, I don't know if Joel ever told you about the Beat Lab sessions. You know, it's like our Sundays, we just get together, relax, and we just try things.
Mm-hmm.
We ask the question, what if I do this? I don't know. Let's try this. And then dude, we were generating about 3 new techniques a weekend just from bullshit, you know, and it's just, we're playing, we're having a good time. We're not training to beat each other or anything like that. We're literally, you know, creating, you know, and that's one thing I do with any of my students. It's like, okay, I teach you something, give me something else off of it. Bring it back to me with something else. That's the deal. That's the trade. I give you a talent. You know, I got 3 servants, you know, give them each a talent. One, you know, one buries it in the ground. One does a few little things, but he's kind of whatever about it. And the other one turned it into 10-fold riches, you know. Which one? That whole thing is about the creative of the mind. It was that whole parable is like a mentality of the mind. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Who's going to create? Who are the creators? I don't want to make drones. I want to make creators.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And actually Joel said the same thing. You know, he said that he wants to give you the principles of the art and the way to be efficient within the art. And then how your mind and your body expresses the art is more up to you. I can't and don't want to control that. I want you to do whatever it is that you're interested in well, and I'll help you guide yourself through that. But I'm not here to tell you what to do, because then you're not in the driver's seat. You're not the active participant. You're just like, you know, being spoon-fed.
Right. And Joel is one of the best teachers you'll ever find. It really is.
Yeah.
You know,
It's I can definitely agree with that. I watched a lot of his videos just from YouTube at first, and I found myself like having a lot of those, you know, like his words in my head as I was doing things. And so it you know, he's definitely a huge influence on me, as are you. Like, so this exploration is a very selfish one. You know, I want to be the best that I can be. And so part of it is going back through the people that have helped me along the way, either on purpose or accidentally, because I don't think you made, you know, like the Apache leg pin so I would get better. You know, like it just happened that way.
no, but I'm glad it did.
Yeah. So like to learn.
You're that one starfish that I threw back in the ocean off the beach.
Yeah.
Well, that Apache leg pin, what's your Apache leg pin going to do for well, this one right there.
So there's this one doughy hillbilly in Kentucky. But totally like to explore the mentality that has led, to those discoveries and whatnot is it's selfish in that I want to do as much as I can to model it, in my own training, in my own grappling, as I continue to progress and also as I age. So this is 100% a selfish endeavor, this, the Old Rollers podcast, but I'm also excited to be able to share it because there's been a lot of great insights that have been shared from people that have been, some really heavy duty places that I never would have had the opportunity to be. So, I'm just like what you're talking about. I'm very excited about what you said with using the mat as a lab, because Stephen Kepfer was talking about that same thing that he got from his coach who was Russian. He trained at Sambo 70. They weren't out to, just like dominate each other. It was like, even when he was a new student, the expectation was that he would have things to offer. So it's like, nothing about grappling, but I'm going to teach it to you. We're going to figure out how it's going to work for you. And then we're going to work within it, and you're going to start challenging me with it.
There you go. And then within that, he harvests new techniques.
Yep. So that's another, just sort of fascinating parallel between the people that we've interviewed.
So it benefits you to benefit another. Oh, funny how that works.
Yeah, you might say like, rising tide lifts all ships and all that. But just like to the idea that the mat is not a place just to beat people up, but it's a place to treat it like a lab. It's a science experiment. That's, right. That's a really great sentiment.
To me, that's truly checking your ego at the door, is when you come in with unbiased, like me, I missed out on a lot when I was training for MMA, is because I missed out on a lot, because I said, nope, I don't want that. I don't want that. It doesn't directly translate to this, but in reality, a lot of it did. And I look back, I'm like, fuck, I could have been so much further if I did, listen to this one thing or something like that. So, but it really doesn't matter. I mean, time is irrelevant. Everything is in a forward, backward, side to side direction simultaneously anyways. Once you figure that out, learning's great because you no longer have stress of time,
Yeah, it's, it's definitely a journey. And I'm trying to embrace that, but I always feel, I started at 35. So I always feel a good bit behind because I wasn't able to start younger. So I'm trying to accelerate, but I'm also, this podcast experience has taught me very much to savor just the experience, whether it's positive or negative. It's a, how do you put it? It's a life bonus to be able to have that time on the mat. To give an example, we interviewed Brian Freeman, who had an accident in the Navy and is paralyzed. I think he's partially paralyzed below the waist, but he has very little use of his legs. Gotcha. And grappling has been a tough road for him, but he does it because he loves it. And, he's adapting, because we call them people who have had accidents like that. Yeah. But he's like, but everyone is an adaptive athlete in jiu-jitsu, because your body will work differently than his body will work differently than his body. And then your body now is different than it will be in 10 years. So you're just always an adaptive athlete, whether you know it or not.
Oh, dude, when I had my shoulder surgeries, I started getting my shoulder surgeries. That's when I started learning about hip shelving, the ankles, the calf and the ankle, for pre-securing a leg lock without using my hands, because I had my arms pinned to my side, and I started using my legs, and that's where I came up with no hand leg locks, where I used my hip bone as my fulcrum instead of my wrist bone.
And that concept that you teach,
which led to the Apache leg pin,
I do my best to be right next to the finish without ever touching you with my hands, because I want my body to do all the work, and then my hands are just like the icing on the cake, right? And so that came directly from you, and it's not a surprise, but it is a surprise that came from an injury.
Yeah, like anything that I really have that's unique came from an injury. I literally had something taken from me, and I had to adapt. And now I can't bridge like I used to now, so now I got to come up with different ways. And dude, I'm a catch wrestler. That's always been my escape. A
Yeah,
bridge, a
yeah, the
victory
bridge.
goes over a bridge. A victory goes
Mhm.
over a bridge, right? So, now I really can't bridge anymore. So now I have like a hybrid bridge, and I have this other way I call the jumbo shrimp, which is like a hybrid between a bridge and a shrimp at the same time. And, it's like, and I came up with all these mobility exercise drills, like it's a constant flow, which I adapted from, like, I got some influence from a guy named Scott Sonnen, a Sambo guy. I'm sure Steve knows, like Steve Keffer knows who he is and stuff like
Yeah, and
that.
I've seen his videos from back in the day. Like he was kind of the first person who sort of broadcast or publicly taught like the saddle.
Look up his, yeah. He really brought the Sambo saddle to light. And I had people like, I saw Gene LaBelle, Gokor. I studied their books. Back in the 90s, we had the thick books that you bought, from like Turtle Press, the big. So I had Gene LaBelle's book. I had Gokor's books. Um, and when YouTube came around, I started checking out Scott Sonnen with a lot of his mobility work, that low walking type stuff, and using lots of rolls and things like that as a warm up, and opening up my hip mobility and stuff like that. So I've borrowed from a lot of people, and a lot of my influence, for some reason, keeps coming from Russia. you know, it's like they make sense to me. Russians make sense to me. I don't know.
Well, my favorite bit of Russian UFC trivia comes from Alexei Olenek, and he might have finished two people in the UFC with the Ezekiel choke, one standing and one from bottom mount. But he has multiple Ezekiel finishes, like in his pro career, something like 20. But the best thing about it is that he's Russian, so he doesn't pronounce it Ezekiel. He calls it the easy kill.
The easy
He's like,
kill.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So he's like, I finish him with easy kill choke.
that's awesome. Easy kill joke.
So I don't think we should call it the Ezekiel anymore. I think Olenek,
No, I like that. I like that a lot. But yeah, Oleg. So, like, well, Ken, like the rolling stuff of Sambo was, Ken, one of the first thing Ken taught me was a rolling knee bar.
Mhm.
So when I saw Sambo doing this stuff, like in so many other different ways, I was like, wow, like, holy crap, I was in love with it, dude. Like, as soon as I saw how much roly-poly stuff they did, that was right up my alley. Because
Well,
I wasn't,
especially as the smaller guy, like you're not gonna just blast double, like dudes, it's just not gonna
not with
work.
this neck,
Right.
hell no.
So
My
you
neck,
gotta
my neck
have
is a choke magnet.
nice. But you gotta have some subterfuge if you're the smaller guy, like it's just you're not gonna get that straight ahead. Like I
Yeah,
got a
so
friend.
my break dancing, my gymnastics, and my skateboarding all fucking came into
Mhm.
play, dude.
Yep, that makes perfect sense to me. That it would be a great foundation for grappling, especially if you were attracted to that Russian like victory rolls and stuff. I mean, it just flows.
Yep.
Well, Sean, I think this is actually like an awesome place for us to pause
Sure.
because we've gotten some just amazing insights from you, and I cannot thank you enough. Like this was just phenomenal. If someone wants to learn more about you, what would be the best ways to learn more about the doc?
Snake Pit USA, of course. I got videos there. Facebook, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I post videos mostly on Facebook. I'm going to start making some more videos just like in my garage kind of thing. I got mats now, at gyms and things like that. I'm going to do more instructionals, and I'm going to be filming. I think Joel wants me to do, we're going to be leg locks. Um, with Snake Pit, and then I'm going to do a lot with Snake Pit, but I also have my own brand, just my name. That's all it is. I do stuff on my own too with jiu-jitsu and things like that. But I'll be putting some more stuff out. But I mean, right now, like you said, I got like 4 or 5 long videos out there that really covers a lot of stuff. And if you just mess with that for a little bit, just see where that takes you. And if you like it, contact me and have me out for a seminar. That's what I do.
Well,
That's how I make my money, as I go around doing seminars and privates around the
okay.
world.
Well, that's awesome. What we'll do is see if we can find a link to the Apache leg pin and the scythe armbar so people can know what we were talking about, and then
Oh, cool. Thanks.
that'll help people to know if they're unfamiliar, get a better idea of what you're saying. And I'll personally say, and I'm being totally honest about this, that I am a lot more dangerous because of those two videos. So I can recommend them with, like, my highest recommendation. Like if I'm chasing a 22-year-old, I'm going to be using like my Apache leg pin stuff,
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm so happy it worked for you too. That makes me happy.
It's principles based and it's replicable. So you don't have to have the same position. Once you understand the concept to make that position work, you can use them everywhere else.
Yeah. If you think about it, it's 3 points of contact. You know what I mean? No.
Exactly. Like
3 points of contact.
You look like you're about to party like you're in Buffalo.
Oh gosh.
Well, Sean, once again, I cannot thank you enough. This was just fantastic. Want to have you back on, let's say after, maybe when you do the leg lock video, we'll do a review for it or something, because I think that would be awesome.
Well, thank you.
Well, once again, thank you so much for your time. We'll go ahead and stop the recording.
All right.